You're listening to the Second Mass Report, the Falling Skies podcast. And believe it or not, Rob, this is a podcast for Season 5, Episode 9. It's called Reunion.
I don't believe it.
Total episode 51. The finale is our next podcast. That's Season 5, Episode 10. Total episode 52, the finale of the series.
Wow.
And that's called Reborn.
Did you think we'd get here, Frank?
Yeah, I did. I didn't know when, but I did think that this was in fact going to happen.
And it did. It did happen.
So far, so good. We are producing this podcast.
Yes.
And hey, I just want to take this moment to thank all of our listeners, the faithful ones especially, for hanging with us and just sticking it out through the end of the season that a lot of us weren't thrilled with, and a lot of us have stuff going on, and for whatever reasons we're not able to pump out the podcasts as soon as we'd like to, but we just want to say thanks for sticking with us, and we love you guys, and you're the reason why we do this, other than the fact that it's just fun.
2 more times. You forgot to say that.
What?
We only have 2 more episodes, this one and the last.
Yeah, well, I considered us only having 1 more episode.
Oh, okay.
In terms of ones to watch and go through. So, this was an insane episode. You ever watch one of those episodes and you feel like not a lot happened? This is the exact opposite, as it should be.
Quite a bit happened here.
As it should be. And some things I was surprised at. Some things we knew were going to come to a head, like we knew we were going to see Pope and there was going to be some fireworks. But I thought that was going to be a bigger, longer lasting deal than it was, and there were some other things that came into this episode that I was like, what?
Yeah, this episode, I'm not going to call it a disappointment. It was interesting, but it goes back to what we've been saying, that they did some filler episodes this season that didn't need to be there. Here we're in the meat of it, and it's like you've only got this episode and the next. It feels like they're rushing through the meat. Yeah. And we're still getting things that you're going, wait a minute, this whole thing about the overlords talking on the Nesca lines, this should have been a big thing. A lot of the audience may not know what the Nesca lines are.
And I was about to ask you, what is this gibberish word that I keep hearing thrown around?
It's not gibberish. It's a real thing. There are, they call them the Nesca lines. They are like drawings.
Who's they? Is this something brought up in the show before?
No. The world. Scientists. Encyclopedia Britannica does. The internet does. Nesca lines are real. Okay?
Can we slow down? You're saying what? Is it 2 words or 1?
Nesca lines. 2 words.
I know what a line is.
Yes.
Nesca to me is gibberish.
Nesca is where it's at.
Is that a place?
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to pull it up.
Because I really wanted to dive into what they were saying. So they mentioned whatever we're talking about 2 or 3 times in the episode, and I was like, wait a minute. What?
It's Nazca lines. Nazca and then Lines.
All right. And what is this?
They are
concept?
Like, what do they call them? Geoglyphs? They're not hieroglyphs. They're geoglyphs. They're like drawings cut into the earth in the Nazca Desert, which is in Peru. And they are these giant drawings of like, they're geometric shapes.
It's probably a thing of where if I saw a photo of it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I'm sure. In fact,
museums and textbooks, and
I'm sure you would have seen them at some point. And the thing is, you can't tell what they are unless you're in space. So that's why there's always, a lot of people saying, wait a minute, they drew these for the UFOs, and
or how could they have, even with the technology that they had and the small view? I mean, without satellite imaging and,
Right. I mean, the technology, sure, they could cut these things, but it was how did they see it? How did they know to draw these this certain way? And they're gigantic. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, like how could such small humans have in that era without, space,
right.
Photography and, geographic mapping like that. So yeah, now that I know what we're talking about, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I wish they would have maybe given us a little, honestly, 2 sentences somewhere in the show that said, here's what we're talking about in a way that, doesn't play awkwardly.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. They rushed through this stuff. That should have been a really interesting plot point. They rushed through it. Tom said it a few times and basically was like, well, they're not a myth. Well, no, the Nazca lines are not a myth. They're real. What's a myth is whether that it was they were drawn for aliens.
Maybe. That's maybe a myth.
But he's saying, well, in this case, it's not a myth. For the show, it's not because
for the show, it's not. But see, what's not a myth is what I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they were probably drawn for what they thought were deities, whether that was something that they just imagined or made up, or
that's
was
a theory
some kind
you
of
hear a lot. Yes.
Yeah, or if it was some kind of visitation from some kind of alien / spiritual entity that that the people that were living in that part of the world at the time were attempting to please.
Right.
I mean, that to me makes the most.
On this show, they were saying the overlords used the Nazca lines to communicate, or they were communicated with by the Nazca lines. The fact that they are communication with alien is the part that is not a myth. And here we've talked about it more than the entire show did. If you didn't know what they were, this was gibberish.
And to a casual viewer, that would have just gone over anyone's head. It almost went over my head until I was like, let me just ask and see if anyone knows what this is.
Right.
What they're saying here. But yeah, to a casual viewer, that goes right over your head.
Yep. So there you go. That was one of the things. All the stuff with the Queen was like, quick. And I'm going, wait a minute. This should have been all season, us having some, there wasn't any weight to it. I was waiting for like this impending, doom of the Queen showing. Here we had it, not until this episode that we get talked about the Queen more. And it was rushed. Although I do have to say, I'm going to say something super positive here. The way it started, Ben in the ice bath, and then coming out and writing on the board and them going, you can't go back in. And he's like burning up from doing that thing. That was one of the coolest things we've done this season. That
was cool, except for the problem of it being, I had no clue what I was watching. I was like, why is Ben drowning himself? And why does that let him in on what the aliens are saying? I'm missing something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they explained it as it went along. You understand now, right?
No.
When he puts his hands down in the thing, he starts burning up. They said his body temperature goes way off the charts.
Oh, so he was trying to make himself
they were throwing him in the ice bath to cool him back down so he doesn't die from it.
Yeah, but that was messing up his circadian rhythm and whatever.
Right. And then he was saying, but yeah, I have to do this. And I get that. Like, he's got this sense of, I'm trying to help humanity here. And if I'm the only person that can go in here and this is going to be the tipping point, he's got to do it if it's a sacrifice.
Well, you want to know what the vibe I got from? I got a total Legend of Marathon vibe where the runner is, running from Athens to Marathon or whatever, one from the other to let him know that, the war is over or whatever.
Right.
The thing is. But he died in the process. Like he accomplished the mission.
So do you think he's going to die?
I don't think he's going to die from that, but I'm saying the mentality that Ben had was the same. Like, I don't care if this kills me. I'm focused on getting this vital piece of information so that we can actually win this war. Like, we need this intelligence.
I, watching this scene, thought that Ben was the guy that was going to go. And
you thought he was going to die.
But obviously not by the end of this episode, he's not. So, well, but I the whole time I didn't think Ben was the guy, but this one I think was setting us up. It could be Ben. I'm telling you, Mason's going.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think either Ben or Hal. And I was actually surprised. I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, when Pope showed up, we can talk about this because it was just so one and done and quick and over with.
Yeah.
Pope showed up with a handful of guys. I'm not really sure where all these guys came from. Like, where he just found guys.
Well, no, he took that crew with him. He took a few of his crew with him.
Yeah, he took a few friends.
And then they picked up those guys. Remember the guys that they ambushed?
Yeah, they kind of recruited a few guys. It was weird. It just felt unorganized and just kind of nonsense. And
pretty
it wasn't
quick.
Set up to last real long.
Right.
But, so, Pope storms the castle, so to speak. And it was funny how they got in looking like they were, a disheveled group of
they were doing
fighters.
The Trojan horse thing.
So, they came in, and then Weaver confronted them saying, it's time to surrender your weapons. All of a sudden, Pope, looks up and smiles and just starts shooting. And, I mean, it was a classic post-apocalyptic version of the disgruntled employee who comes back and starts shooting,
Right.
Except, of course, he had several guys with him, including Anthony, who I don't think we saw fire one shot. I think Anthony just I don't even know what Anthony thought was going to happen when they decided to storm in. and guns blazing. Like, I don't know what he like. I thought there maybe would have been a conversation between Pope and Anthony. Like, wait a minute, you want to do what now? I thought we were just kind of distancing ourselves, and I didn't think we were actually gonna go. Or maybe if you had a vendetta against Tom, whatever, I get that. But like, you want to just start killing just random people indiscriminately, like.
But he had to know.
Yeah, and he had to know like what Pope was thinking.
It was their plan.
Going in there.
But here's the thing.
But he just stopped with this frozen expression, like, wait a minute, I can't shoot these people.
Well,
and I just thought, like, you wouldn't have thought that through before you stormed in there with him. Like, I don't know. It seemed kind of weird to me. But
here's the other thing, man.
That whole storyline, I thought was another thing that was rushed.
Yeah, here's the other thing. This was super clumsy. You say it's rushed. It was just clumsy. It was the writing here where they're trying to give Anthony redemption. So we've seen him evolve into essentially a loon this season. They didn't make it like, hey, he's got a different viewpoint and he's going to be hardcore and he joins Pope because of that.
Well, ever since Denny died,
they made him crazy with this.
Something snapped when Denny died, and he just kind of like glommed onto Pope's crusade.
Right. But the fact that he comes back in with Pope and then acts like he doesn't know, and now I'm going to save Anne. I'm telling you, it was clumsy.
Yeah. Well, it was clumsy and
it was rushed. If they had shown him in Pope's camp, even once, kind of questioning what was going on, but they really didn't.
No, yeah.
He was a henchman this season, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, I'm going to turn and save Anne. Weird, man. Weird.
Yeah, and I was hoping that it was going to be Anthony actually who ended up killing Pope. Really hoped that it was going to be a Pope-Anthony showdown. Yeah, because remember I was talking about a few weeks ago going back to season 1.
I try not to listen to you, Frank.
Well, I know you try, but, you keep asking me when I'm going to call in. And,
right.
Some mixed messages here, Rob. But if you go back to season 1, Pope and Anthony had this whole thing. They would just bicker, and Anthony was very proud of the fact that he was a former police officer, upstanding, citizen, and Pope was an ex-convict, and they would point that out with each other, and they would have these little little bickers.
Sure.
So I kind of wanted a Pope Anthony showdown just to give that some, just to give that a nod. I'm also fine with the fact that Pope and Tom were the ones. Tom and Weaver were the ones to take Pope out. I love that. Was a funny last moment because they were shouting and screaming an entire conversation at each other, like up until the very second that he died.
Right.
They were talking about, even Tom was talking about, Pope, this is not the way to handle this. Like, there's innocent people between us. We can sort out our differences. This is your last chance. Don't do this, blah, blah, blah. Pope was talking all about, he didn't even give a crap. This is this is poetic. I'm storming the castle. Ha ha ha. Let's all enjoy this moment. They were having that conversation up until the very minute that Pope died. All of a sudden, Tom goes, "Hey Weaver, see those barrels?"
Yeah.
And Weaver goes, "Yeah, man."
Now, did you? Okay, I want to know what you thought about this because you can tell by my voice what I'm going to think about it. What did you think of Pope's going out this way?
Well, let me tell you one more thing. I thought that would have been a great place if you were going to have Hal die. I thought that would have been a great place. Hal's been.
Me too.
Hal really has done kind of a whole lot of nothing this entire season, and I don't see him like turning into like a huge contributor now. I thought maybe he would like sacrifice himself to like save Ben or somebody like that. I don't know, something, and then like Hal would just go. I thought like that if you were going to write Hal's death into this series, that would have been a really, I think, great place to put it, because the fact that Pope came in so quickly and then died such a short time later, leaving almost no trace of the fact that he was even there other than leaving Anthony, it just, I don't know, I felt like, and that's it. Okay. Like if you could have like,
it was a throwaway, man.
Yeah. If he could have like taken down Hal or somebody with him, or like Anne. I mean, can you imagine if because of like Sarah died, it was Pope's, he was going to kill Anne now, and that's what actually happened. Can you imagine like the conversation we'd be having right now, rather than talking about how it was a throwaway? I mean,
you've acted like I've had bloodlust this season, but I'm telling you, these are the things that would make this stronger.
Well, I'm saying it's episode 9 we're talking about now. Is nobody going to die this season other than Denny? I mean. Or Pope? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we all knew Pope was going to go.
Okay, here's my question about this. and this is a TV trope. We see them blow this thing up, but we didn't see a body. Do you think Pope is dead, or are we going to have him resurface? I have in my notes here.
I sure hope he's dead.
I have in my notes here that Tom says, so long, Pope. But then I said, I wrote on here, there's no way. There's no way.
You think we're going to see Pope in the last episode?
I do, and I don't want to.
Rob, we don't have time for that.
Well, and it's so not necessary. They just took away his whole necessary storyline. They made it irrelevant. It wasn't about Sarah anymore. It wasn't even about Tom anymore. It was just...
No, yeah, he just wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, which he did.
Yeah.
He really got his wish.
But it would have been... I wanted to see him die. We didn't see him die. We saw rubble go across him, and that was it. And we have not seen a body. We didn't see a hand sticking out, nothing. If they wanted us to believe 100% that this guy was dead, they would have had a shot of the rubble and his hand like sticking out, and we could see his rings or whatever and go like, yeah, that's definitely
Rob,
Pope.
Yes or no, are we going to see Pope in the next episode? Based on what you're thinking right now and your notes and on episode 9, will we see Rob? Will we see Rob?
We will see Rob. Pope? I'll be there.
Is your hand going to be sticking out, I hope?
According to my notes, I'm going to say yes. But as I'm talking, I'm just so hoping we don't.
I want to
say no.
We don't. We just don't have time. I think they could have done more with Pope, but now that I feel like they've given us closure on Pope, just go with that. We have one episode left. We don't have time. They could have
skipped that whole episode at the farmhouse and given us a Pope story, and we would have been much better off.
And let me tell you, I'd be saying different things if we had, maybe another season to go. If we had maybe, another 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes before the finale, I'd be like, well, maybe we will see Pope. Oh, right. This is okay. I'd be kind of talking like that, kind of how I was a few weeks ago. But right now, I'm kind of like, I'm kind of on where you've been, I feel like, this whole time, going like, all right, guys, like, we are down to the wire. Like, we have to finish strong here. We don't have time to like mess around.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've messed around, and you've talked about this concept of the Queen. Like, why haven't we been hearing about the Queen
until last episode?
Since maybe season 4. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It should have been, even if it was the beginning. No, you know where we should have found out about the Queen? In the last episode of last season, we should have found out that the Dorn are there.
Yeah.
Or that there was something, but we should have found out about a Queen. There should have been rumblings.
Cochise or his dad, somebody should have said.
Maybe the scene when Cochise's dad dies, he reveals there's a Queen. That would have been like, wait a minute, what's this?
Yeah, that would have been great.
And it could have been quiet for a couple of episodes until this whole thing unravels, and then we're like, this was what his dad was talking about.
But we
that
never
would have been
heard
great.
Cochise say anything about it. Last week he just goes, the previous episode, I didn't think it were possible. End of conversation.
Here's another character.
Now we're in this episode 9, and he really has nothing to say about it. And I was like, I wanted to hear this from Cochise, and like,
right. Here's another character that is arguably my favorite character. I love Cochise. I make no bones about that. He's one of my favorites.
No exoskeleton.
Right. And no exoskeleton. Right. And they've made him irrelevant. I mean,
he's really not done much this season.
No, we had the scene where his dad died, and that makes him head of the Volm army. Has anything happened with that?
I mean, Dingon has done more than Cochise.
And Dingon's another character, though. They brought him in last season, and it was kind of implied like this is going to be an important character. What is he?
Well,
to me, he's been no different than this Martin guy, and Martin has been.
Well, and I don't understand why he's
even there.
These guys are just like techie guys to be there. Really a lot less. They develop their characters a little tiny bit, but really they give them maybe one episode, and then the rest of the time they're just like the lab nerds.
Right.
You want to know who this was in season 3? Was that doctor or whatever his name in the basement? Remember that guy?
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, and do we remember what happened to him?
They killed him off. Yeah, they killed him off.
I don't. Yeah, and then all of a sudden we have Dingon, and it's just like.
But now we've got this Martin, and it turns out
Martin.
he's a biochemist. It's like really. Really, he's the one guy that can solve this because he's a biochemist. This character, once again, they brought him in this weird way. That was fine. I mean, I was interested in that. But the next episode, they have him like kissing Weaver's butt, and now he's a biochemist. This guy, okay.
It's weird.
He's another one. I predict if somebody's going, this guy's a red shirt. He reeks of being a red shirt. He's going to go.
He's just annoying.
Yeah, but he's going to serve his purpose. He's going to solve this, and he's going to die redeemed because he helped solve a problem for them. That's what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And blah. Okay, let's talk about. I'm going to say I was right on a prediction.
Oh, really?
I'm going to say I was right. I wasn't, but I did bring this up, the return of Lexi.
And I really did not think.
And
when I started this episode, I did not think we were going to be talking about Lexi on this podcast. Or really, I would have almost been surprised if we mentioned her with any kind of significance.
But I said it in the last episode, but it was more out of, oh God, don't let this be where it goes. And it's where it went.
I don't even remember what.
I was saying
we were talking hilarious. About. You should find it and insert it in right here and just. Well, we
were talking about the names, and we said reunion, and I said, "What if it's Lexi didn't die and Lexi's come back or something?" And you were
Did you actually say that?
Yes, and you went, "There is no way." Here it is. Now, what's interesting is, no, Lexi didn't die, but you knew, or did die, but you knew it. You knew it. They played it about as well as you could, but as a viewer, we've just seen what happened with that Kate. I think that's her name. We've seen this thing go on, which also this complete overtaking of a character and making him look like another character makes that Brian storyline at the beginning of the season even worse.
Brian's song.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I said that about Lexi, and I was joking.
Now, quick question.
Here she is.
Was it revealed that it was Lexi this entire time who was the queen? Is that what was going on, or not?
No, where did you get that?
I thought because all of a sudden that's the way it seemed to be.
No, that was one of my crazy theories.
Oh, see, I thought that was what the show was implying, because all of a sudden you had Ben, in the hot tub, or the cold tub, whatever, listening to, the aliens Skype session. And then all of a sudden he runs out of there like, oh, this has to do with the queen and the great giant. And, oh, but this has to do with Dad. The queen is about to come and attack Dad. The queen is here. I don't know. Right. That's the vibe I got. And all of a sudden he ran in there, and sure enough, Lexi was attacking Tom. And I was like,
yeah, I see why you thought that. But no.
So you're the queen?
No, she was just one of those s5e9 things that mimics.
Are you saying she was the same thing as what Jan was?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Same kind of thing. It wasn't the same thing because they killed Jan or Katie, whatever her name is on there. But I knew that it wasn't actually Lexi. And this is a weird thing, the way they do this. I guess that they have their memories when they do this. They take over their memories, somehow maybe they're, I don't know. But for that Katie, she was still there. They took over her body. Lexi, how did they do that? Did they have a body to work with? When she went and crashed in the moon, did they take the body at that moment?
I guess.
Yeah, I was
and then just reinsert her body on the earth and pin it under a whatever it was.
See what I'm saying?
Put it right in the path of where Matt was going to find it.
Right, very convenient. And
can you imagine if just Maggie had found Lexi's body?
Right.
And
the
Matt
wrong
wasn't
person
there?
Finds it, they just shoot her.
That would have been really short-lived and hilarious.
Yes.
For all the effort they put into
but the exact
reviving.
person, the only person that would find her and not react strangely was Matt.
Yeah, or maybe Ben.
No. Ben would not. Ben would have known. Ben did not react well to her.
Well, nobody really did other than Matt. And if you
that's why I said Matt's the right guy.
Well, but look at everybody's reaction to seeing her again. It was so very weird. And Tom has been doing this really the entire season. He's been using everyone he knows and loves as a resource to win the war, rather than as a daughter, or as right. You would think he would a son or a family member or a wife or a friend. He's been using everyone.
Right.
Tactical advantage
all that
for
good stuff
safety
that he
later.
all that good stuff that we built up about Tom and his family and how he looks at the world is pretty much gone this season. He's just he's become the military guy.
And you didn't see Tom, having a father-daughter struggle like we saw last season. You saw, yeah, well, you might be useful. Well, we might be able to use you. That like, he was saying that stuff to her face. The way he was treating Ben was like, no, he's right. We need him to do this for us, even if it threatens his safety. Like, we need results here. Like, that was his mentality. I was like, man, Tom, like, this is not the Tom Mason that like I grew up with.
You grew up with Tom Mason? How old are you,
Well,
Frank?
the last few years.
12?
A 5-year show.
You 12?
I was.
At one point. So, yeah, man. The Lexi thing to me was very strange. It
dead air.
I didn't.
We're just like trying to ponder everything.
I didn't hate the Lexi line, but once again, it was rushed, and it felt like we were talking about David Icke is involved in this, and his name does show up in the credits as executive producer. I still don't know how involved he is.
I would think executive producer means you're pretty darn involved.
Not if they gave you a nice big paycheck for that, and I don't know, but this of Lexi and everything reeked of Battlestar Galactica. So I
haven't seen.
I did think, oh, this might be where David Icke is coming in here.
And I haven't seen any Battlestar, so I don't know about that.
So just know that there's something like this.
Okay.
So yeah, and so this Lexi, I mean, I don't understand if she's an alien, which she is. And yes, she's supposed to be undercover, just like a secret agent. She's supposed to be feeding them information to build trust. Okay, I get that. But there were moments where it was a little too much, and you were going, wait a minute, so maybe it is Lexi, but this doesn't make sense. And I think it was almost like they were trying to trick us as the viewer, as opposed to letting us know what the threat was.
But when he threw that capsule at Lexi and that did the trick, I was like, oh, that means she's the queen. They gave her the capsule, and like, is it
no. That thing is just against the s5e9.
So they can use that multiple times against any s5e9.
Yeah, that's what it appeared to be. The other thing that was strange about that is they once again, too quickly used. They were implying that it would hurt humans, and very quickly they solved that problem. And it was like, well, wait a minute. So the Dorn gave us this. Does that mean the Dorn is expecting? And this is really what I was reading into it. The Dorn, by giving Tom that weapon, they are expecting to wipe out the humans at the same time.
They're saying that might happen.
Well, it looked like it was going to, the way things were going. So I wonder if that's going to be the end game. Yes, they solve the problem in this, but could that be what's going to happen? Is we're going to end with an invasion of the Dorn. And didn't they imply that the Dorn were this ancient civilization?
But they're extinct. There's like none left. Who's going to invade?
But how is she there?
She said she's the last one. Maybe they're like a race of creatures that can live hundreds of years, and she has no one to reproduce with, and so she's just kind of on a mission to like oppose her. Hold on,
I got to text her your phone number, Frank. She's looking for a mate.
Yeah, well, that's probably the best I can do at this point.
I will adorn you with my favors.
Well, I hope our kids don't have dyslexia.
Oh, yuck. Well, that was it. We got all the way to the next to last episode and just lost every listener. Grief.
Now, but we keep kind of saying that things are rushed, and if you take hand in hand with the things that are rushed, as well as the things that we kind of feel like didn't really need to be here this season, if you can kind of replace some of that time, 10 episodes, you can do a lot in 10 episodes. If you just take some of the things and throw them out that we didn't need and use that space to stretch out the things that felt rushed, I think you'd have a way more season 5 that was just way more of a payoff.
You could have taken half of this season, cut it out, and embellished the other half, and it would have been a much better show. Think about the season where we had your girlfriend when she had the eye bugs and all that, and we didn't know who's the traitor and what's going on. That was a really good season. There was
Yeah, that was very fun.
And there was a lot of cool stuff happening. I mean, a lot happened, but they stuck to those core stories throughout the season.
Right.
Where's the core story here? It's just these like broad strokes, these quick stories that don't really fit the mold, and then introduction to new characters.
And I feel like it's gone that way since really season 4. I think seasons 1 through 3 were kind of the golden seasons, if you will, and then 4 and 5 I felt like kind of fell off the table a little bit. And I felt like the promotion on TNT's part kind of fell off too. I remember like back in like season 2 and stuff, like there were just big deals. I mean, there were a lot more commercials. There were a lot more web.
They did that whole boom thing, and got you like
more
into
hashtags and more like just promotional stuff floating around on Twitter. And there was the app that you could follow along each episode. And with season 4 and 5, I just felt like they were kind of like, you know what, let's close this thing out, and not even really worry about the budget and if we're doing things right or if we're promoting or
it does
doing
kind of
contests.
feel that way, like we're just finishing this thing out.
And I think it spills over into fan enthusiasm. I don't know what the ratings are doing, but like I just feel like the fans who are watching, like you and me, aren't as excited about Falling Skies as we would be if the storytelling were as good as it seems like maybe it used to be.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're sensing this. I mean, it's carrying over. And I still enjoy the show, and I'm still a big Falling Skies fan. But like, I mean, if you go back and look at like my personal Facebook posts from like 2 or 3 years ago, you'll see me saying like, "Hey, everybody needs to watch this show. I love it. Like, I'm phenomenal. It's fun." You don't see me doing that now. Now I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm keeping up with it. I podcast for it. I like it. That's why I feel a little bit kind of let down. Like, this could have been so great. And I feel like it just didn't stand up to, I feel like, its potential.
Yeah. I gotcha. So I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
all right, the way it ended, I think we're there. We've got the Hornets flying in.
Is that what we were seeing? I thought those were spaceships.
Nope, those were Hornets.
Oh.
I went and I rewatched this ending multiple times just because I actually thought it was kind of cool. But here's the biggest thing. It feels like we've been here.
And you know where we haven't been? Is Washington. We've been talking about going to Washington for a long time. And I thought maybe the last 2 or 3 episodes were going to be like Washington-based episodes. Like, we're going to see what's going on.
Sure they were. We're still
we're not
there.
Even there. Yeah, we're not even there yet. We're still talking about like, oh, let's get to this like giant. Let's go to the Washington or the Lincoln Memorial. Let's go to this, that, and the other. It's like, but you're not even in Washington. You have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
So
this was the only point where I felt like we got some special effects too. When we got
I was very impressed when that ship came out of the water.
That was cool, and the Hornets were cool. It did have a little bit more of a movie feel to it, I guess.
Yeah, more so than some of the other episodes.
I wanted more.
Well, and the reason you're wanting more is because they wasted so much time earlier when they should have been developing this stuff, so that your Pope payoff lasts like 2 minutes. Your Queen stuff, Queen isn't even mentioned until the second to last episode, and all this stuff. And it's like, wait, we want more, but there can only be one more episode.
Right.
Okay. Like, now what? I mean, you can't go back, and it's not like they're gonna be like, oh, you know what? Hell, let's renew it for a season 6. Like, that's just not gonna happen. They're not gonna make a movie. Like, we legit have one more episode to go. Like,
right.
This is it. Like, it's like the final game of the season almost, and it's like we got to make this count, and that's why we feel like almost like, but we can't at this point.
Right.
There's no way that the season. There's no way that the series finale can at this point be as good as we hoped it would be like a year ago. You know what I mean?
No.
So that's why
there's going to be issues. I just hope it's not a dud.
And that's why we're sensing this kind of like impending frustration a little bit. And I don't think it's going to be a dud. I think it's going to be something that we can look at and enjoy watching it and not be, frustrated and, throwing things on the ground. But that being said, it's going to be as good as it can be at this point.
Right.
But
that's a good way to put it.
It's not going to be. It's going to be the series finale that we need, but not the one that we deserve.
That's a great way to put it, Frank.
Put it to you that way.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, well, we got a little bit of business before we wrap up.
Hey, we finally got around to hearing, or I got around to listening to Judy's message talking about the timeline and people's ages throughout the season. Now, Judy, first of all, I very much admire your ability to research and remember and just have the passion of a fan to care about these little nitty-gritty facts and details.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest with you, Judy, I'm going to speak right to you and tell you that you would make a fine podcaster. If you ever want to be in the podcast business, I love your sound quality sounds great. I love your ability to communicate, and I love your research and passion. So talk to Rob.
I'm the one, yes. And you know where to reach me. I agree. And we will, for those of you that are listening, Judy is the one that sent in her review of an earlier episode when we were talking all about the Hal, Maggie, Ben triangle. And here she did this timeline, and it's really well researched. It's fantastic. We'll put this at the end of the episode, just like we did that last one, so you at home can hear this. It's really good, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. My favorite part was giving the time frame for when it all started and what the ages were. I thought that made so much sense.
And Judy, I don't know if we're going to be able to, before the end of this podcasting series ends, if we're going to have time to kind of go back and forth about this so much more, but I just want to say kind of preemptively before we let the listeners in on it. Judy says that she thinks Maggie was a little younger than I do at the time we met her. I think she said that she would have been about 21. I think she was maybe more along the lines of 24 by then. I think there must have been some time in between between Maggie getting out of prison. There must have been, at least several months, if not a couple of years, where she was traipsing around with Pope, not really, having a home or a family, but, not knowing where her child went. And then, the invasion happened and this, that, and the other. Next thing you know, she runs into the second mass, meets Hal. And so there we are. But
we are. Yes.
I thought I wanted to say that Maggie was about 24 by the time that we saw her in that second episode.
I think you've actually thrown that age out before too.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I guess maybe I could be wrong. I mean, Judy's done more research recently than I have, so I'll let her. But I just want to say I thought for sure. I remember thinking for sure that Maggie was older than that, but I'll just leave it at that for now. So. That being the case, you're still welcome to submit any kind of feedback that you want, really anytime going forward. I mean, just because the season, the series is over and we're not really going to be doing much in the way of podcasting for it going forward, I would imagine. You're still welcome to communicate with us through the, Twitters, Facebooks, emails. Actually, I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, don't email the Falling Skies email because we haven't been using that all season long. Really. So just if you want to get a hold of us, you can email, the Southgate Media Group email, or get a hold of us through the Southgate Podcasting Twitter or Facebook, or it'd probably be easy to see the Falling Skies Second Mass Report Facebook or Twitter as well. So you can get a hold of us through there. And I don't mind, just kind of going forward, even throughout the next months and years if you want. We can make friends and we can talk about aliens and we talk about falling skies and whatnot or the other. So I'm just throwing that out there as we kind of see this coming to a close, that, we're still here, we're still around, we're still going to be part of Southgate Media Group, and we would love to just make friends with anyone who's listening who wants to chat.
Excellent. Very good.
So, what's the official Southgate email address?
It's real easy. SouthgateMediaGroup@gmail.com.
Fantastic. And
it's an easy one.
We're also on Facebook. Of course, you can find Southgate Media Group on Facebook, but if you're looking for the specific podcast, it's the Second Mass Report, Falling Skies Podcast, and on Twitter at Falling Skies Pod, right?
Yep.
Second Mass Pod. Falling Skies
Pod. Second Mass Pod.
Second Mass Pod.
I had to think. I'm always bad about that.
That's the one we're always trying to remember. I think it had to do with the fact that we had another Twitter account before, but you can't make it like the full name. Like on Facebook, you can name it like a full thing, but on Twitter, they limit your space, so it's like Second Mass Pod, Falling Skies Pod. It's got to be something pod or like
Right.
Escape Pod. It's something.
Ooh, Escape Pod.
Anyway,
why didn't we name it that? That's awesome.
That can be our next show. If they make an Escape, a TV show called Escape. The Great Escape. Why don't we have the Great Escape podcast, and the Twitter handle can be Escape Pod?
You know what? Go ahead, Frank. You can do it all you want.
Nah, I'll leave that for somebody else. Just I want credit for the pun.
Okay. Credit
also,
given.
I don't know if you want to preview anything coming up. I'm excited about Heroes Reborn podcast coming out later this month, September 24th. It's going to be on NBC.
And you've got your Heroes Reborn podcast coming soon.
Yes.
Well, and on top of that, we do have another Heroes podcast, which is called Primatech Files, and they've been going through every single episode. They're doing the mini comics, or the comics, the mini episodes, everything. And I'm going to throw this out there for those of you that are fans of Heroes. This Sunday, so I don't know what date this is, the 8th or something?
I think it's sooner than that.
Is it? I don't know.
No, it's gotta be before the 8th.
It's the first Sunday in August. TV Binges, which is a partner of ours, they do binges of TV shows, and you kind of watch and you tweet during the binge. It's just a lot of fun. If you're a Heroes fan, they're doing a Heroes binge this Sunday. Just follow them on Twitter at TV Binges, and you'll get the information. We'll be tweeting it out from at SMG Pods also to let people know about it. I don't know if we're personally going to be able to partake or participate in this. I'm hoping we can. I just don't know. But if you like Heroes, this is a fun way to get all hyped up before Heroes Reborn starts.
All right. Well, I might just have to get myself in on that and make some friends before Heroes Reborn.
That would be good, Frank.
Kicks off. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap that up here. We like to give our personal Twitters, too. I'm on Twitter. If you just want to reach me at DJ Frank Stella.
Yep.
And Rob.
I am at R Southgate. And once again, the company is at SMG Pods.
Yeah. And so stay close to SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Site undergoing some renovations, but you can find everything that we're talking about there, or a link to it at least. So.
Oh, yes.
So I guess we'll just wrap it up there, and we've got one more podcast headed your way for Falling Skies Season 5, Episode 10, the series finale. It's called Reborn. So we'll talk to you there. We'll talk to you more when we get to that final podcast episode. Until then, Falling Skies Podcast Second Mass Report is a production of the Southgate Media Group. And until that last podcast coming up next, stay vigilant, stay active, and stay brave.
Hello, Frank and Rob and the rest of the Second Mass Fighters. This is Chechi Judy, the Polish blonde in Central Massachusetts, reporting in on the timeline challenge that Frank and Rob posted to me the last time I sent in feedback. I accepted their challenge via tweets, which I don't do very often. So here it is. Basically, the invasion happened in April of 2011. 2011, basically from the Falling Skies wiki, they determined, I think, the year on that by the year that the series started. So April is based off of reference points in Season 1. In the pilot episode, Tom mentions that he would be grading midterms right now. Midterms for a college professor would be late October, early November. And that when he was discussing things with Anne, they had stated that it's been 6 months since the invasion. Going back, that puts it sometime around April. So that's where we got that. Hal was a senior in high school. Puts him 18, 19 years old because he was just about to graduate. It's April. Most graduations happen May, very early June. So you're talking 18, 19 years old. Ben concretely stated he was 14. Matt was 8, another concrete age that was attributed to them. Maggie, not so hard to pin down. We know she was 18. She was living with a guy. They were kind of homeless. They were stealing, breaking into people's houses. That's what ended up in how she ended up in jail. And when she was in jail, she found out she was pregnant. And so you've got to figure that she was in prison for approximately a year and a half, 2 years, for all that to go through, figuring that they took the baby away while she was in prison, right after it was born. So you figure she probably had a 2-year sentence minimum. Figuring on that, okay, that puts her about 2021. Okay, so Hal, Maggie, right about the same age. Ben and Maggie, okay, we're pushing it there. And don't even bring up Matt at all. That is just not going to work. So there's my report. I'm trying to keep this as short and sweet as possible. So there you go, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you later.